Note speaker, their entire analysis in this debate on the principle of protecting consumers was contingent on actually helping consumers. That's really risky, guys, because we've shown you two things. First, we've shown you that on your side, you actually get more market consolidation, which means you get more monopolies, and this is bad. Secondly, we've shown you that on our side, even if there are monopolies, these monopolies have incentives to innovate, which on your side, you lose. But on our side, what you should note, speaker, is that our principle about property rights was inalienable and independent to any of the points that they bring you. So every time they tell you that they protect people, you must weigh up the fact that their side has a disproportionate breach of property rights, a disproportion that they fail to acknowledge every time they spoke to you about why it's important to help people. But before I move on, an important clarification to make. We won't let them get away with telling us that we don't get the difference between patents and patent protections anymore. Because not even once in all their 3 speeches have they told us what the distinction really is. Like, okay, so if I have a patent, I can tell other people that I did it. Sure, I can just come up with like a Facebook post and tell people I did it. What's the consequence of that if I can't sell it? Like, they need to tell us that. And unless they tell us that, like, that all those like seconds that they wasted on that are just like entirely irrelevant. So 3 questions in this debate then. First, whether it's morally permissible for them to abolish property rights. Secondly, who gets more competition? And third, who gets more innovation? So on this first thing about whether it's morally permissible to abolish property rights, we'll do a few things here. First, we'll deal with all the rudimentary analysis they gave us on helping people, and we'll show you it's better on our side. Secondly, we'll talk about how property rights are like, we'll talk about everything, all the objections they bring up about property rights. And third, we'll deal with our alternatives and their alternatives, and we'll show you why ours are better even under their paradigm.
But first,
yes.
Patents say that you can have your name on it, and you still have to disclose the information, meaning other people can use it. Patent protection means I'm the only person who can use the litigation power to sue others and be the sole proprietor.
Okay, cool, but presumably I can still choose whether or not to patent something, right? Which means that all of Munshi's points about how people aren't going to patent things because they don't want others to know that they have technologies hold true. Not even once have you responded to any of that analysis. Now, moving on. They gave us a bunch of things about how people are more important. Quoting from them, they spoke about price fixing, they spoke about how tech is essential to global development. Okay, number of responses. First, we'll tell you they've given us no structural reasons as to why monopolies necessitate abuse. Khan Academy has a monopoly in education. They haven't told us structurally why that means they'll necessitate abuse. Secondly, note speaker, that all the examples that they gave you happened under our system of patent protection, right? If someone came up with like a new kidney dialysis machine, that happened under our system of like patent protection. Why does this happen? I'll deal with this a bit more when I speak about innovation, but quickly. Like, what are the incentives of startups? We'll tell you that venture capitalists who invest in startups, and this is all the stuff Kate and Munshi gave you, they do it because they hope that the startup they invest in will one day dominate the market and have a lot of market share, right? When you know that that's not going to happen because when you grow, you're going to lose that patent, they're not going to do that. So on our side, we actually have venture capitalists like investing in kidney dialysis machines, investing in Khan Academy. We think that's a great thing. But third, insofar as they tell you that like markets are about good outcomes for people, they've given us absolutely no reasons as to why this is true and why property rights shouldn't be breached. Their only response on property rights was when they told Munshi, like, it's derived from something else, right? Firstly, he already told you that, like, literally everything is derived from something else, right? They've given us no structural reason as to why every single patent is a result of displacement, something which only came about in the third speaker's argument, right? We'll tell you that on our side, we win that. But more importantly, and this is with all their stuff about corporations, right? And why corporations take stuff and don't allow individuals things. 2 responses. First, we'll tell you that when they tell us, and I quote, that corporations take things without consent, that's not true, right? Because when you sign a contract with a corporation, you necessarily give up some of your rights to be able to market a product. Why do you do this? Because I'm an engineer, and I don't want to work at Apple so I can better the world and like join other engineers at Apple, right? I can't just sit at my home and work alone with no infrastructure, right? They need to deal with that. And they get so the second thing we'll tell you then, this is in response to all this about Foxconn and like exploitation. First, we'll tell you, no, like, you know, we actually do care about engineers, right? We'll tell you that Facebook engineers have like millions of followers on Facebook and all that stuff. Like, people know that these guys are innovating things. People know that they're doing things. Secondly, that's about supply chains, right? Like, workers in China at Foxconn are not like coming up with patents and stuff, right? We don't think that this is relevant at all in the debate, and they wasted a lot of time on that. But more importantly, no thank you, even if we could tell you that like we benefit from, like even if they could give you a lot of reasons about how we benefit even marginally from removal of property rights, we'll tell you that they're absolute because A, we think property belongs to us and you can't tell us and they haven't given us any framework as to how you can choose how to use it. But secondly, we'll tell you that property rights are the basis of a commercial economy, right? Because if I have property rights, I can then go out and invest in more commerce because I know the government is going to take my rights away. We think that's better in the long run. No thank you. So now let's deal with the second question about which side increases competition. They gave us a bunch of things about how small businesses are badgered, etc. Number of responses. Firstly, we'll tell you empirically untrue, right? The dynamic nature of industries, and this is like with Google and Facebook, etc., means that they keep having to innovate. Secondly, we'll tell you that it actually costs a lot of money to litigate, right? At the point at which Apple and Samsung are litigating against every startup, they're also litigating against 50 venture capitalists with a lot of money. If those venture capitalists think that startups have an idea that's worth protecting, they'll fund them, guys. Venture capitalists have loads and loads of money backed by all the finance costs of the world. No, thank you. And then, more importantly, we'll tell you that we actually can police things on our side, right? We're happy with things like, loser pays patent lawsuits, in which case we defend, we're not with, frivolous patent lawsuits. We're okay with all of that.
Sir.
But then what's the next thing they tell you on this side on competition, right? They speak about the small guy and startups, etc. So, two responses. First, we'll tell you that when it comes to startups, the relative attractiveness of startups in the absence of a patent protection regime to venture capitalists falls. All the stuff that we've already given you. If I'm a venture capitalist, and I know that the startup that I'm investing in is going to lose patent protection, why would I invest in them in the first place, right? We don't think that they'd ever take their market to make it big, right? Okay, next thing. We tell you that they never declare patents. All the stuff Munshi told you about spin-off investments. We had no response to this, right? We'll tell you that it's important that people declare patents because they're out in the open and other people can come up with things. So for instance, if you have a kidney dialysis machine that is patented, we think that the fact that it's patented tells people that there are other ways to come up with those things, right? That there are other independent ways to arrive at the same technology. On our side, you'd rather keep that stuff secret, right? You'd rather keep that stuff secret, and that's why it's important that we ask you that PUI about copyrights and trademarks, right? Because if they are okay with abolishing copyrights and trademarks, we'll tell you that they are okay with doing away with the business model of literally every tech company ever. But if they aren't, we think that's principally inconsistent with all the things. Moreover, we tell you that protecting trademarks and copyrights requires all the litigation that you guys speak about, and on our side, those harms are still there. On their side, those harms are still there. So on to this third question then, on who gets better innovation. They spoke to us a lot about alternatives and they challenged us to say things. Literally all the alternatives were oh yeah, the government will give you grants and better access to stuff. Look at the dollars involved, right? The government doesn't have the money to be funding Apple and Samsung, the most valuable companies in the world. If they are, the opportunity cost is probably a lot of welfare, probably a lot of other important things in society. We think companies should do that on their own. We think the market is different. But more importantly, we'll tell you why we get more innovation on our side. It's so important that third speaker didn't deal with any of Munshi's arguments about different kinds of products, right? We think that what happens under their regime, in where you have no patent protection, is that if I come up with a new product, right, someone else can just come in, steal that, and I lose everything that I have there. So I have no incentive to actually innovate. On our side, what you have is because there are patents and other people can't compete on the same terms, people create new things, right? Empirical evidence. Look through the last 30 years in telecommunications and TVs will tell you that what people do is come up with new products when they can't compete on the same ones that are patented. So on our side, we actually get better products that help people. And insofar as that is your criteria for judging whether or not people should maintain property rights, we've proven to you first that those property rights are inalienable, and we get those on our side. Second, we've proven to you that we get more competition, something we haven't heard a response to. And third, we've already proven to you that on our side, we get more innovation, even if we have monopolies. They needed to respond to all our nuance about venture capitalists and startups because they never help the small guy if they don't recognize those things. Thank you.